Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. And we're going to be talking all about the coronavirus and the myths and facts around it. And as most of you know, I've been a pharmacist for almost 20 years. And so I've been getting lots of questions concerning the coronavirus and what's true and what's not. So I just wanted to go through all of that with everyone and talk about some of the common myths that are out there right now and explain why they're not true. And then talk about the things that are fact and things we actually should be doing. So first thing I want to address is some of the myths and some of these viral videos and emails that are going around and some of the misinformation that's being spread. I mean, as things are now, it's already scary enough for a lot of people, and we don't need to be adding to the panicked feeling by, myths circling around, further heightening all these fears and spreading this crazy, scary stuff that's not actually true. And so the first one I want to talk about is that the rumor going around that there's been a pandemic every election year, which of course implies that this is some kind of, there's a political agenda behind this and like a secret organization that's engineering all of this and that it's all planned. And, and some of the emails and stuff I've seen and some of the videos I've seen going around explaining all this stuff makes it sound very plausible. They say there's been a major outbreak either every election year or the midterm elections every 2 years, and with everything going back to 2004. So let's just talk about that really quick and what's true and what's not true about that. So in the last decade and a half, we've seen SARS, the avian flu, swine flu, MERS, a couple different outbreaks of Ebola, the Zika virus, and now Corona. And the messages going around would state that they've occurred with election years every single time. Well, first of all, if you're going to be counting election years and midterm elections, well, that's 50% of all the years out there. So there's a good chance a lot of this stuff's going to fall on that anyway. But even in that case, actually, a lot of this actually isn't true. The email states that SARS was in 2004, which actually was first identified in February of 2003. Same thing with swine flu. The message going around talks about it being in 2010. It was actually in the spring of 2009. Zika virus, same thing, was late 2015. And then even with the current coronavirus, even though we're now in election year, obviously this was several months, started in 2019. That's why it's referred to as COVID-19. And even though now we're into 2020. So it's basically, taking some things, twisting around a little bit to make it sound like a, really plausible theory. But as you see with this one, there's just, the facts have been manipulated and, those dates aren't all correct. The second one that's a big one going around, and this one's actually, the story is really scary, but the story behind it's actually kind of humorous. So what it is, and I've seen this one going around myself, but it states that the virus is actually a bioweapon that was created by the Chinese government, and they originally created it to calm the citizens' protests and stuff like that in their own country, but they found out they didn't expect it to be deadly, and when it turned out to be, that actually the U.S. government, of course, wanted to purchase this, and that there was a deal in Wuhan. There was a shootout during the exchange of the virus, and that's how it broke out and all this got started. And there's this whole thing, the whole story that goes along with it. Well, what's funny about this actually is because it sounds like a sci-fi story, is that it actually is a sci-fi story. This was actually a story written for a section on Reddit. For those of you that follow Reddit might have heard this already or be familiar with this. But this was actually a story created for this section on Reddit. And in this section where they create these sci-fi stories, all of the people who participate in this, they act as if the stories are true, and it's part of the whole fun of the whole thing. And this story actually got reposted on another site. I know the site had like UFO in the title. And but then it spread from there, and people mistakenly thought this was an actual real thing when it was actually a sci-fi story, like I said, written for Reddit. So if you've heard that one going around, that's where that actually comes from. And then let's talk about some just more things. This is more like I've been seeing I've gotten forwarded several messages from friends and neighbors and things like that about, ways to prevent the virus. And, some of these things going around, some of them have some good information in them and some things that are true, but often there's a lot of misinformation in there as well. And, all these people are well-meaning and they think they're forwarding you helpful advice. But of course, with advice that's incorrect, it can actually make things worse by either, making people think by doing this, they're going to be immune. And then of course, being more risky with their behavior. Or people not seeking treatment when they should be because they think they can do other things that's going to cure the virus that actually won't. So one of these things is drinking warm water every 15 minutes. I've heard this one numerous times. The idea behind this is by constantly drinking water every 15 minutes, you're going to wash the virus. If it does get in your mouth, you're going to wash it into your stomach where it will be destroyed by your stomach acid. Well, it is true the virus wouldn't survive being in your stomach acid. What's not true is that by drinking water every 15 minutes, it's going to wash every single virus down into your stomach. That's still not going to prevent you from, breathing it into your lungs and becoming infected and, eventually contracting the disease. So just by drinking lukewarm water every 15 minutes is not going to prevent you from catching the virus. There's another one going around that the way to know if you're infected or not is to try holding your breath for 10 seconds. And what this states is that if you can hold it for 10 seconds, that you don't actually have the virus and that you're fine. Well, as most of you probably are guessing, that's not true. Holding your breath for 10 seconds doesn't mean anything at all, just maybe that you don't have severe lung issues, but doesn't mean that you're free of the coronavirus. And especially that wouldn't even apply if you're in the early stages where you're still contagious and a lot of people never even get to the point where they have severe lung issues from the disease. But the idea that you can tell 100% whether you have it or not by holding your breath for 10 seconds is not true. And really the only way for sure to know that you have the coronavirus is to be tested. So another one going around, and this was actually reposted, and there was a politician down in the southern United States that was actually spreading this information as well, thinking that it was true, but that by breathing in hot air, and specifically this, the message I've seen going around, a lot of people have been spreading, and I believe it started out as a YouTube video, and since then YouTube's taken it down, but I think it's been reposted again and is probably back up somewhere else. But it actually recommends using a blow dryer, like for blow drying hair, and basically spraying it, setting it in and blowing into your mouth and breathing that in, and that somehow is going to kill all the virus. And I believe the message along with it said that it's because the virus lives in the sinus cavities and stuff that this hot air will kill it. Well, that's not how viruses work. A virus just doesn't stay in one specific part of your body, and especially your nasal cavity. It enters the cells of your body and travels everywhere. So breathing in hot air, especially from a blow dryer, is not going to do anything. So don't think that you can do that and that's going to, kill all the coronavirus. One of the another scary conspiracy type theory is that there's mass cremations being performed in Wuhan, China, and that there was actually some images seen showing this. And I believe they were like infrared type images from what I saw from what it looked like. And then this was being purported to be these mass cremations of all these people they're cremating that supposedly were coronavirus victims. A couple big problems with this. I did some research, looked it all up. Number one, the images being used weren't even real images. They were actually computer models that were used to predict sulfur emissions. And that's what the message going around was saying, that these high levels of sulfur emissions indicated mass cremations. Well, the thing is, first of all, it's not even a real photo or an image from a satellite. It was actually a computer-generated model. And a couple other issues with it. First of all, sulfur emissions, high levels of sulfur emissions are not indicative of cremating human bodies. Actually, high levels of sulfur emissions are usually from industry. And there's actually iron and steel plants in that area, and that's likely what the model was representing, that high levels of emissions from these plants. So first of all, it wasn't even a real image. It was a computer-generated model. Second of all, cremations would not cause tons of sulfur emissions. And so the whole thing, is just not true. Then getting into some of the things we should do, and I'm sure this is stuff everybody's been hearing over and over again, but this is what's important. This is what will actually make a difference and what we should all be trying to do. Of course, social distancing, keeping a minimum of 6 feet is what the CDC is recommending between you if you do have to go out. I know like a lot of places now, like here we're not necessarily quarantined to our homes, but it's highly recommended that you don't go out except for essential purposes like getting groceries or gas or things like that. But or the doctor, emergency dentist visits, pharmacy to get medications, things like that. Other than that, it's highly recommended that we stay home, and basically all non-essential businesses have been shut down. Restaurants are only doing takeout, things like that. But basically, the less social interaction there is, the less opportunity there is to spread the disease. And, of course, as I'm sure most of you have heard over and over again, they're trying to flatten the curve so that hospitals don't get overwhelmed and that they're able to treat all the people who do contract the virus. So number one, social distancing. Number two, hand washing. Again, probably heard it a million times, but I'll emphasize it because that is one of the most important things. Frequently hand wash, soap and warm water, and especially anytime you're out in public, as soon as you return home, and just frequently throughout the day as well, just to be safe. And then they also recommend not touching your face, your mouth, or your nose, and the reason being because if you get the virus on your hands, that's how it's typically going to be spread, or how you're going to contract it is by touching your face, your mouth, or your nose, and transferring the virus into those places where then it can be ingested into the body and become infected. So try not to touch your face, nose, mouth, and face. Practice lots of hand washing and social distancing as much as possible. So those are the things we should all be doing is to get through this. And so I hope by going over some of these things, like I said, some of this is probably stuff you guys have heard a million times, but I want to emphasize those things that are true. And I just wanted to address some of those emails and rumors and stuff that are going around, because I know a lot of well-meaning people are forwarding them on, thinking they're helping everyone out, and but really spreading misinformation and doing those things can actually harm everybody if they think they have immunity and they don't, and they're being more risky with their behavior and things like that. There's one other one I wanted to address too, is that taking in super high levels of vitamin C will make you immune to the virus. Now this one, there's some truth in using vitamin C to support immune function. It does help immune function. There have been some studies that show taking high doses of vitamin C has lessened the duration of the common cold, but not the frequency in which people get sick. But some people have extrapolated data from that to mean that taking high doses of vitamin C will give you immunity to coronavirus, which is not true. And I think some places are experimenting with high doses of vitamin C, especially IV, to help people get better faster. But that's still, we don't really have full results on that yet. But the idea that by taking tons of vitamin C that you'll become immune to it, you won't contract it, and you can't get sick, that's not true. So if you want to take vitamin C, that's fine. It does support immune function. It is water soluble, meaning that if you take in too much, your body's just going to excrete it in your urine. But the worst thing could happen by taking too much vitamin C is it can cause nausea, diarrhea, upset stomach sometimes. So that's like worst case scenario. But if you want to take vitamin C to support your immune system, that's fine. Not going to cause any harm. It might be slightly beneficial, but it's not going to give you immunity. So that's the difference. The idea that it being helpful is not a problem, but the problem is that it's not going to. Some people are purporting this to mean that if you take a bunch of vitamin C, you can't get the coronavirus, or that if you have the coronavirus, taking a bunch of vitamin C is going to cure it. As far as we know, that's not true. So just another one, and I've been seeing a lot of that information going around, and specifically talking to you about lipophilic forms of vitamin C, where vitamin C is actually surrounded by fats and lipids, and the idea behind that is to get higher blood levels than taking it orally in a tablet form. And I've seen some studies on that, and while the levels are slightly higher that way, it's not anywhere near the levels that would be in your body by getting vitamin C IV. So that's another thing I just wanted to talk about. Well, I hope this helped to dispel some of those myths going around, maybe made some of you people, feel a little better about everything, maybe calm some fears if you had heard some of those really scary rumors going around. And if you guys have more questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer what I know and explain whatever I can. And I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. And thanks for tuning in. If you like what I'm sharing, please like and subscribe, and keep your family safe, and do that hand washing, social distancing, and try not to touch your face. All right, thanks everyone. Take care and have a great day.